So what would you say is the biggest takeaway from last week's loss, and how do you plan on translating that into tomorrow's game?
Well, I think the level of intensity for our practices had to ramp up a little bit more. I think having that open week, I think our kids got to, not necessarily we'll use the word complacent, but I don't think they were playing or working to what got them to that record to begin with. And I think our leadership guys came in after the game and said, man, coach, we got to pick up next week and get ready for Monterey. And I think that's something that they acknowledge and that we're able to see that the way they practice is the way they performed. And I think that was something that was incredible for our kids, and I think it's something that we're growing into. The leadership continues to evolve.
So first Silver Spurs game, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So from what you've seen in the past, what makes this game so special and what excites you about it?
Well, I think one of the things that excites me is just the fact that there's a lot of people that are closely involved with the game, and I think there's history behind it, and there's community behind it. There's, you've got friends playing friends, so it's kind of one of those things that I think they all know each other, and I think that's what's made it such a competitive. It's like what I told the kids, it's like going down in the backyard and you go to one side of the street and you go ask the other side of the street if they want to come out and play some football, and that's really how it feels right now. And it's a great environment. It's something to be looking forward to, and I think it's going to be a really good game for both teams.
That kind of leads me into my question. Since it is a cross-town battle, how are you making sure these athletes aren't letting their emotions get to them or make it more than a game?
And that's a great question, because that's really not easy to do, and it's hard to keep these kids calm. But what we try to do is stay on routine and not change a lot of things up. The one thing that I will say is we did some things different in practice. We switched our practice up. They were and that's something that we evaluated. We noticed that the last 3 weeks our schedules were really rigorous and they were very the same way. So we decided to mix in our practices a little bit more and just give them a different, when you were expecting to go team in the afternoon or towards the end of practice, we decided to go first, and then switch our individual, just things of that nature, just to keep them off guard and just make them understand that they've got to focus no matter what the adversity is.
And then you mentioned cleaning up offensive penalties. How has the team worked this week in practice to do just that leading up to game day?
I think what we try to do is give more of a real game-like scenarios for them and put them in situations based on down and distance when we know we're going to run certain plays that require certain type of discipline, and keeping them just focused on what needs to be done for that particular play, but understand circumstances a little bit more. So red zone situations, 1st and 10 situations, 2nd and 7 situations, those type of things make a big difference, I think, as we get ready to play tomorrow night.
And then, Monterey, they've been kind of known this season for putting up those big numbers, and we know defense wins games. What does this defense need to do to stop the Plainsmen?
Well, that's all great other question. I think for us, it's keeping their backs at bay. It's really have an offensive mentality that's going to keep the ball away from their offense, so to speak. They've got some kids that go both ways, so definitely we understand that, and try to keep the ball on our side so that they don't have a chance and opportunity. Keep their running backs from breaking outside. They both have a tremendous amount of speed. They're hard runners. They're hard-nosed people, kids that like to run the ball hard. So definitely just making sure that we play together, gang tackle, and don't let one person be out there by themselves.
Specifically, you're playing another team that is as fast, if not faster, than Tascosa was last week in Lubbock, Monterey, with those two backs. You say you're going to have an offensive mentality. How do the Westerners control that time of possession? How do y'all extend drives if you're not getting production just from Dunkerson?
Well, I think we work on our short game a little bit more this week, and Coach mentioned it earlier. We have a big screen game in our package, and I think that's something that we're going to exploit a little bit more this week. Put some more motions in this week just to kind of keep their defense at bay a little bit, and at the same time just look at the clock and make sure that clock is running, and we're not doing anything to drop footballs or get out of bounds. We're going to try to keep everything in play.
And then specifically on defense, Coach, with how much Monterey likes to run the ball, they do it just to set up that play action where, like, Arrington might not throw a lot, but when he does, it's usually going for a big play. How important is that one-on-one assignment football, especially in the secondary?
Well, I think it's extremely important, and I think we have a young secondary group back out there, but I think they've had a really good week of practice. We put a lot of more emphasis on doing some one-on-one drills versus our offensive receivers, so I think that's coming into play this week. And again, giving our kids the opportunity, scheme-wise, showing one coverage but really running another is probably one of our tactics, that we're going to use, and mix and match as much as we can from our man coverage to our zone coverage and keep them guessing.
And last question here from me, Coach. You've basically coming off a rough loss. How do you get these guys just to completely put it behind them, even though that they're facing arguably an even tougher opponent this week?
I think for us it's just, keeping them focused, concentrating on the things that we normally do week in and week out. Stay as consistent as we can, but we have those little nicks that we did over with our offensive practice and our defensive practices throughout the week. And just keep talking about our ultimate goal, which is to win 6-7 ball games and to make the playoffs.
I'm good.
Thank you, Coach.
I got chocolate lace.